Hello, everybody. Welcome in. It's Friday, and you know what that means? It's
Front Office Friday!
let's go. We're talking NBA basketball. We're talking in-season tournament, all the latest news, and we're going to be taking your questions and comments right here on the NBA Front Office YouTube channel. If you're not a subscriber yet, hit that subscribe button. Turn on those notifications as well. Keith, how are you feeling on this Friday?
I'm great, man. I'm excited. We have a full slate of games tonight. This feels a little bit like trickles of games that we drink from the fire hose with
Yep.
like 12 or more games and all that. So I'm excited to get back to a full slate tonight. And then obviously in-season tournament finals tomorrow. We get the two teams that this is all they have to play for this year, obviously, right? This is it. Just the Pacers and then those fun, plucky upstart Los Angeles Lakers were
The underdogs.
their way into the finals. So I'm
somehow
excited.
found
It's
a
kind
way.
of fun, right? It's like a kind of this is like maybe sort of what the NBA wants, right? You have like the David versus Goliath-ish story,
Sure.
which is almost impossible to get in the NBA finals because that would mean winning multiple rounds of 7-game series and that. And here it was possible. So yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I think it is. I also think this is also the two kinds of teams that at the outset of this we said might have a better shot in the in-season tournament than in the actual NBA playoffs because of a few factors, right? In the NBA playoffs, you've got to play at an extremely high level for 2 months if you're going to go the whole way. You have to play that way for 2 months. So you can get a young team that gets hot for a stretch of a few games and they can take the thing down. And of course, that's the Pacers. You can also get a team that's got some older stars that just turn it up for, a handful of games, and that would reflect the Lakers. Now, again, I'm not saying these teams are going to be easy to deal with come postseason or playoff time. Both these teams can make noise. Just saying that was the archetype of the two teams where people said at the outset, these are the types of teams that could potentially make a push in this NBA Cup, this NBA tournament, whatever phrasing we're going to use for it. But so it's interesting that you got kind of both sides. You got the older veteran stars, and then you've got the young kind of plucky upstarts, if you will, in the Pacers.
Yeah, it's also sign of LeBron can bring it, right? Like he can still bring it when he needs to. When he hit that pull up from
Oh my
the
gosh, he shot it from LA.
At that point, I was like, I'm shutting this off. Good night, Pelicans. This is done. That was just, unbelievable, that he drilled that one. I mean, yeah, this is going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be a really fun final. I'm excited, like I said, that we've got, a bunch of games going on tonight as well. Not so excited that we don't have any games on Sunday, but that's fine. I'll get some Christmas shopping done and something else. I don't know. I'll probably end up watching a bunch of G League and college games instead. But it's just, this is good stuff. Hey, let's also note this couple things. 1 week from today, trade season kind of unofficially opens, right?
Yep.
Because almost all the guys who were signed over the summer, the league gets to about 89% of the league can be traded a week from today on December 15th. That'll jump up to about 95-ish% on January 15th. And then there's always a handful of guys who can't be traded this year. So that's kind of the unofficial opening the trade season. In 2 months from today is the NBA trade deadline. So we're like full on into our time here on Front Office.
Right.
So if you're tuning in and watching, now is a great time to subscribe, put on your notifications. If you put your notifications, you won't miss a Friday live show. We give you a little bit of a buffer there to get in the room and be ready to go for when we do the yell and get all fired up here at the beginning of the show. So you could get in on that. And then, we'll be very busy here over the next couple months talking trade rumors and all that stuff. Because I meant to say this on yesterday's show, but you know what? We're also like, I predict probably within the next week or two, we're going to start getting those insider notebook pieces where they drop like 7 or 8 pieces of intel all in one thing. And there's sometimes it's very loose and there's not a whole lot to it. Sometimes there is a little bit more to it. And those are always fun for us to break down and track and get into all that stuff. So all the good stuff is coming here for what you come to Front Office show for.
And sometimes when you get those, it's like the most important thing gets snuck in like 3/4 of the way into the piece. It's like a small little bullet point, and you're like reading, and then you're like, wait, what? What did that just say?
Yep.
Oh my God. That's the kind of stuff that we're going to be, of course, breaking down, and we'll be all over that stuff for
Yep.
you guys. It's an exciting time of year. It's our time to shine, breaking down all the trades, all the possibilities, all the transactions around the NBA.
Let me throw one more thing out there, just as a PSA.
Yeah.
Woj did today on Threads. He did a Q&A on
Oh, did he?
Threads. I
Okay.
can't remember Woj ever doing a Q&A on Twitter. Maybe way back in the early days he did, but he did a Q&A on Threads. Probably, I'm going to guess it was probably about 15, 20 things he answered a lot, and actually answered like a lot of stuff, like about teams and players and what could happen and things like that. And then there were a lot of general, like, how did you get here type questions for him and his career and all that. So he did that. So that was a lot of fun, to kind of go through that. But why I'm mentioning it as a PSA is he also announced he's going to be doing it every Wednesday. Is the plan to do a Q&A on Threads. I think this is Woj is slowly but surely going to migrate to Threads as being the place where he probably starts breaking his news and that kind of stuff. We've seen, and I don't want to get into, the debate of should they or shouldn't they, but a lot of companies have moved away from Twitter X recently, the Disney family of companies included. So I think we may be moving to the, as Mr. Classic just said, no more Woj bombs. I think we'll still get Woj bombs. I just think they're going to come via Threads is where we may start seeing them. I'm not going to say it's fully, but I think there's a chance for a little while this is what's happening.
Well, let's be clear. That's not Woj saying Threads is the superior
Correct.
platform. That's his employer saying,
pushing,
go over the, yeah.
Yep. And that's, we've seen a Disney from their corporate accounts, whether it be Disney or Marvel or Star Wars or any of the theme park accounts, they've tweeted in almost a month now. So just a little bit of a heads up to, check if you haven't set up a Threads account, you can set it up. You set the notifications. It's not, I don't love Threads because I'm a creature of habit. I like the way Twitter is set up with all the stuff, but I think that's where, it's going. We've also, if you follow these guys and you put notifications on, Shams is also dual posting a lot of his stuff where he posted on both. So I think we're probably heading into a place where I think we're going to see, slowly but surely a bit more migration away from Twitter X. So just something I wanted to throw out there, because if you're watching this show, you're probably interested in all that sort of stuff.
I've been posting a little bit to Threads every now and then, throwing some stuff out there, and it's fine. I haven't spent a lot of time paying attention to it. I know when it first came out, one of my biggest concern was that it wasn't Twitter. Like that's what it needs to be. In order for our purpose specifically, Instagram drives me bonkers, up the wall crazy, because I open up Instagram and I suddenly see an important story and it's from 2 or 3 days ago. And I'm just now seeing it. Their algorithm drives me insane because it's not chronological. Threads was doing the same stuff initially, and that simply can't happen. So I'm hoping that is fixed and that it is completely chronological. People had these workarounds and stuff you could get to Threads to try to make it kind of sort of like that. Yeah, if that's going to become a thing where you've got Woj and somebody going over there and they start breaking news there, that has to be fixed, because otherwise that's a disaster.
Yeah, without a doubt. And that's how you're going to pull people over, right? Is and I'm not saying, Woj made Twitter by any means, because Twitter was already a thing. But for NBA fans, that will pull people over there. It'll also pull people over if it's not just him, if it's also him and Shams, then if you're an NBA fan, you have to be on there, right? You have to really get focused in there. So that's a whole other thing that's coming, but that's just something I wanted to put out there, just because I was following it this morning and I was like, and then when he dropped, I'm gonna do this every Wednesday over here, I was like, all right, we're probably heading in this direction. So and then Blue Sky, I know some people like Blue Sky. I'm on there too. Their traffic is very low over there. It kind of comes in waves. Like somebody will be like, hey, Blue Sky. And then that, quite honestly, is when I'm like, oh yeah, I remember that. And I sign in and look, but it's like Twitter, but there's a lot of stuff that Twitter has that it's missing. Honestly, let's just get back to like Twitter being good again. And like that, my big thing with Twitter right now, outside of any of the other stuff, there's just way too many bots. Like it is crazy. Every tweet I send has, all these different kinds of bots underneath
The
it.
replies.
It's just like, in the replies. And it's like, you're trying to filter through. And I try to be active with people in the replies, and it's knocked down my activity quite a bit because I don't want to filter through, 30 bot replies to find the one actual question or thought in there. But anyway, that's all stuff. Let's talk hoops.
All right, let's get into basketball. Jared Chalker says, Trev, the Lakers stomped the Pels. Oh boy, they sure did. You have to let out a front office Friday because
have at it, my man.
I guess I can. I got to think about the approach. I got to get into the right mindset here, Keith, like the right frame of mind. Do I need to do some kind of a vocal warm up?
You might need to. I don't want you to strain because I know you've got a game to cover. Or actually, I'm going to see you tomorrow. Hopefully,
this is very bittersweet. We need to talk about this. I'm coming to see you tomorrow, but that also means I'm going to miss the final.
Yep.
Oh no.
So be it. It was funny the minute you booked that trip to come here to Orlando, that clinched the Lakers making the in-season tournament final. Absolutely, that is that is the basketball gods at work, my friend. I think maybe you close out the show with a front office Friday, so that way you can get built up and you can build up to it. That'll be.
I like that.
There we can go.
We'll close out with that. It'll be a little teaser for the end of the show. Jeremy said, happy front office Friday. Halliburton is arriving as a superstar. Hopefully that will force the Pacers front office to make moves. Which players think they should target that will fit? Yeah, there's a story out today that Tyrese Halliburton is using the in-season tournament and season to recruit star players to the Pacers. And this is according to Adrian Wojnarowski. But what are your thoughts on that? He's going to try to recruit players to the Pacers, a team that traditionally doesn't have star players flock to them.
The dog is checking in here. There's Tatum checking in. Everybody loves the pop. I'm all about it, right? I mean, good for him, right? He should be using that to be his kind of recruiting push. Somebody just said Halliburton doesn't understand it's still a small market. No, he gets it, but he's trying to say, hey, we can win here. And I'll go back to, if you get the right kind of guys and you start winning, market size starts to become a little irrelevant to some extent. The Bucks
and especially if you're winning fun.
Exactly.
If you have a fun team that's putting up numbers,
Yep, the Bucks have proven that. The Thunder proved it back in the day. Now they were mostly homegrown, but you get the right kind of guys in there, all of a sudden you can start winning. What players they should target that fit? It's too early for that now, right? We don't know just yet exactly what they need. I would say they need a little bit more size, like more somebody who can be another 4 that can fit in there. In that, maybe Jarris Walker, maybe he develops into that. He's played pretty well in the G League. He hasn't set the world on fire down there, but he's played pretty well. So I think that's a guy who could fit there. But the big thing for the Pacers is they have all kinds of flexibility. Right, they've got cap flexibility. They've got guys that are on very movable contracts. With all this stuff, we talked about it, I think, a couple weeks ago. It was kind of he really wants attention today. It was kind of interesting. We with Buddy Hield, the trade request happened. They went through all the stuff early, and then he's just been kind of playing, and it doesn't seem like that's gone away. But that's like the ideal. Like, this is how a trade process should work. Like, hey, maybe we'll look at a trade, but in the meantime, I'm going to give you everything I have and keep playing. And then maybe what it turns into is, you know what, I don't really want to go. Let's re-up the extension talks again. And that could be something that happens here. So I think, we're in a spot where the Pacers can go in a lot of different directions. I just think it's a little early to start saying this is the guy they need to go get.
Yeah, I mean, they've been so good so far, but it's the kind of thing where you can derail a rise by making the wrong move, by being too eager to go all in. Now, that said, if the right opportunity becomes available, you can go for it. You can use what you've got now as kind of a launching pad. You just have to be careful with it, that you don't force it, because there is going to be organic growth. This is a young team. You can expect them to improve a little bit year after year. And so what they're doing right now, yes, it shows you what their future can be, but at the same time, it's not just throw caution to the wind and let's go. We're a great team now. You got to be careful. Make sure you make the proper steps. And then you're patient. You make the right move, not just a move. You need to make the right move.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. And that's the big thing, right? I was asked on a radio hit yesterday, is the hardest thing for a general manager to do is know when it's time to kind of pull the plug and start over. And that may be, right? Especially if it's a team that's accomplished some stuff and has been together for a while. It can be very hard to tear the team down. But I would say it's the cousin to that is when to go for it move.
Yeah.
Right. As you've built up, because if you get that wrong, guess what? You're not making the next set of moves. You're going to be in a tricky spot because now all of a sudden what's happened is you have made your move and now you can't make the next one. And because you don't have those assets. And if it doesn't work, then what we're going to see is you're not in charge of making the moves any longer, right? They're going to go in a different direction. So you got to be very careful. And that applies to teams like Indiana, Orlando, teams like that, as they, kind of climb up here into being, really relevant type teams for postseason contention.
Keith, the dog is determined.
Man, he is like, I need it right now. He is in need of attention.
Something. Let me ask you this, because this has been on my mind. What, especially after last night's game, what is going on with Zion?
Yeah, I tweeted about that this morning.
That did not look. I don't know if that was disinterest. I mean, I've seen from Pelicans fans have been saying he's not in shape. He's not conditioned. His conditioning is a problem. He didn't look super motivated. He definitely didn't look, especially by contrast when LeBron turns it up, but 23-year-old Zion being nowhere near the energy level of an almost 39-year-old LeBron was noteworthy. He really just was just kind of out there. Wasn't really much of a fact, had a couple little drives to the basket, but I'm looking at him thinking, man, is there anything Zion's doing right now that Julius Randle wouldn't do? Maybe even probably better right now? Like, that's got to be concerning for the Pelicans. What the hell is happening with this guy?
Yeah, there was a sequence where he caught the ball at the top of the key, turned and faced on LeBron. 2 dribbles, blew right by LeBron, and then finished over AD. The very next play, the Lakers came down. D'Angelo Russell ran a pick and pop with AD. AD popped out to about the top of the key, and Zion just opened his hips, and D'Angelo Russell drove right by him for the easiest layup he got all game long. And that can't happen because you can't tell me he has the explosiveness and all that stuff, but only on offense. That doesn't make sense, right? No. And this was in like the first or second quarter. So it's not like we were fourth quarter when it was like
he's dragging.
Right, he's saving it for the offensive end. He doesn't have it. Like, this was early in the game. So it was extremely frustrating to me. He looks very disengaged on defense, just like doesn't care. The other part that kills me, he's averaging less than 6 rebounds per game. How? You should be at 10 rebounds per game when you have his ability and his body size. Mm-hmm. And it was funny because over on Twitter, somebody was going at me with, he's only really 6'5". Cool. Russell Westbrook's 6'3" and average, 10 plus rebounds per game for years. James Harden is like 6'4", average 10 plus rebounds for years. I don't want to hear it. Like, this guy should be at 10 rebounds per game because, one, he should be using the big body to block guys off the ball, push him away, and just get him that way. And then he can jump twice before most guys are down from their first lead. So that's extremely frustrating to me that he doesn't get more rebounds. So I don't know, man. He talked about it himself and said, my effort needs to be better night to night and all that stuff. So maybe that's all it is. But man, right now it is wildly frustrating watching him because this is not where it should be. He should be better on both ends of the floor, and it just isn't there.
He absolutely should. But when he's saying my effort should be better, this is nationally televised. There's no other games on. You're on a special floor. Everybody in the NBA media sphere is there, right? And like they've made this into a big deal. Adam Silver wants this to be a big thing. And you're one win away from $500,000, which I know Zion's got this huge contract, but still, we've seen this matters to players. LeBron is literally a billionaire, and he's talking about how much he wants to win $500,000.
I love the quote about somebody asked him, "Aren't you too old to be taking charges?" And he's like, "No, when 500K's on the line."
Right, exactly.
I loved that. That was great.
So that's concerning. This wasn't just a random Thursday night. game, in December. There was a lot more to this, and he didn't get up for that game. But then the prior game against the Kings, he was just kind of there. That's concerning. Keith, is this a situation though where suddenly we get the surprise Zion trade right before the deadline, and he goes to New York or something, and then he's putting up 25 and 10 every night? Is that the path that we're heading down here? Is that, if his effort's not here for this game, is it his location needs to move and then suddenly he's going to go back to being Zion?
Yeah, I don't think so, just because of what you said. If you're not going to bring it in Las Vegas with everybody watching, I'm just not sure you're going to bring it anywhere. And it may be one of those where you're traded and you put in supreme effort and you look like this whole new player for a month or 2 months. And then the next year starts and it just is what it is. I just think that's what he is. I just think it's, at this point, it's been, I'm not that end of the floor is not where I'm going to put in the effort. And that was, I used my pre-draft comp for Zion was Larry Johnson. That's who he reminded me of. Super explosive, not real tall, but really played bigger than his height kind of player. And now I'm afraid, is it Larry Johnson, but without the serviceable jump shot, which I get by today's standards, Larry Johnson would not be a good shooter. But back then he became a very serviceable jump shooter. And it's if that's where Zion is this early in his career, that's a collective failure. And that's a loss for all of us, right? It just doesn't, it feels bad, right? We really want to see it be in a spot where this guy plays, better, because that's better for all of us as basketball fans. I just, I was so aggravated and annoyed because nothing upsets me more with the game of basketball than a natural talent that just goes wanting because they don't put in the effort level. That just kills me.
I think that the NBA has got an issue here where at some point LeBron's going to sail off into the sunset. Right. At some point that's going to happen. And so far, all of the guys that are supposed to be the next big, super marketable player, aside from maybe your guy, Jason Tatum, they're all kind of, in terms of American players, they're all kind of fallen by the wayside. I mean, Ja's got all his stuff going on. Ben Simmons has collapsed in on himself. Zion's got this thing going on now where he's putting up 10 points in critical games and not looking like he's showing any effort. I don't know. For the NBA, they've got to be a little bit concerned right now that it's not a problem that your biggest stars are foreign or from all over the place, but it's concerning from the perspective of you don't really have the next great American star aside from Jason Tatum right now. And maybe that's a big issue for Team USA moving forward as well, unless we continue to see a rise from Tyrese Halliburton. And perhaps that's part of why Tyrese Halliburton is getting so much buzz. Not only is he fantastic, but oh my gosh, everybody else is just collapsing.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely could be. I think you might be onto something with that. So we'll see, where this all goes. But yeah, let's hope, guys. Let's get some questions coming in the chat, because this is really the idea for this whole show. Is it's your show, so let us know what you all want to talk about here. But yeah, we'll couple things from Woj, if you want, from his thing. Maybe that'll spark some stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
Here. So one of the questions he was asked is, what's a storyline you're keeping a close eye on this season? What it was related to a team. Which team do you think he said?
Oh,
and it was related to trades and all that.
Oh, related to trades? I mean, I'd have to imagine he's keeping an eye on the Bulls, right?
Nope, he didn't say the Bulls. He said the Toronto Raptors.
Oh, okay. That would have been my second guess.
Yep. The Toronto Raptors' decision on a future direction, meaning whether they will decide to seriously make Pascal Siakam and OG Anunoby available for trades. So that I thought was pretty interesting. He was asked to the Kings go after something. He said they're in a great position with their roster, draft picks, and salary cap situation to make big and small deals. They're dealing from a position of leverage. He was asked if he's going to break the Shohei Ohtani news, and he said he'll leave that to Jeff Passan to do, which is funny. That one is really funny, the Shohei Ohtani thing.
Yeah.
Because I commented on this on Twitter. If you just search Ohtani, there's 5 fan bases that are all convinced they're getting him. And if you haven't been following, it sounds like by the end of the weekend at the latest. Man, the pup is he is insistent today on this.
He's excited about today's show.
He's fired up, man. He said Bojan Bogdanovic was in great demand at the last trade deadline and will be so again.
Mm-hmm.
Detroit's had a brutal start, but wants to see what this group looks like healthy. There will be a number of contenders interested in acquiring Bogdanovic. So that was interesting there. He was asked about would they consider making the IST a playoff spot or a home court advantage in the playoffs on the line with that. And he said, no, they pretty much are going to leave it to the financial aspect with this. I've also heard that too, because the NBA doesn't want this turning into, hey, you get a guaranteed playoff spot if you win the in-season tournament, because then that completely reverses the intention of this. It makes it then the rest of the regular season is, all right, what do we care? Right. We're already in the playoffs. So, so there's that. What would the Bucks do? And he talked about, I'm not going to read it. It's a longer answer, but he talked about how they used a lot of their assets already to get to this point. So they don't have a whole lot. So it might be a little bit of the buyout market for him. Again, though, let's remember they're over the apron. So anybody makes more than the non-tax payer bid level of 12.4 million, they won't be able to get there. He was asked, how does he feel about his scoops being called Woj bombs? He didn't answer that. He basically said, I love how passionate the fans are about this stuff.
I doubt he cares.
Yeah, that was really kind of it, from this. So just, again, something we'll probably hear a little bit more from here over on Threads from Woj.
All right. Let's see. I had some questions. Oh, what do you think trade packages for OG looks like? That's so like the Raptors, they keep being this team, and I think the Raptors are definitely a team to watch, but they've been a team to watch for years at the deadline, and they keep just declining to do anything. Hopefully we don't walk down that same path here again this year, but if it was, what was it last year? It was 3 firsts, I think, that they wanted for OG.
That was reported was 3 firsts plus young players. So
is it 3 real firsts, or I mean, because we talk about that, the value is different among first round picks, but what do you think is a realistic trade package then for OG Anunoby? And is that realistic? 3 first round picks if they're real first?
It's what gets tricky with OG is if you're trading for him, you have to feel good that you're going to be able to keep him, right? Because otherwise, if it turns into a stretch run rental, that gets really kind of messy. Then you're probably not giving up 3 firsts plus the matching salary, young talent. So I like to think of these things in terms of like 3 to 4 assets, whether it be draft picks, young players that you can grow with, because that's those two things end up being very similar type things, as terms of a player and a pick. So I always think about it that way. So I think, probably for me, I would say 2 real like assets, and then maybe something extra on top of that to push you over the top. And there's some teams I feel like from Memphis, for example, I think he'd be a perfect fit there. Feels like they're really they're interesting. I talked earlier about how you got to know when the right time to go all in is. Feels like Memphis is now teetering on the other side of, did you miss it? Right? Were you too precious with your own draft picks and young players? Did you miss that window? So they feel like a team I'd be okay if they gave like an extra thing in a trade to really juice the package to go get them. If again, the intention was we're going to keep these guys coming in, keep them around. So that's probably where I'd be at is, a player in a pick or 2 really good, like 2 actual good picks. And then you kind of go from there.
Do you think the Raptors actually do something this year? And I know who knows, but is this the year that they finally? I mean, they lost Fred VanVleet for nothing, because they didn't do anything at the deadline. Did they learn their lesson?
Order for nothing. I know it was a sign and trade, but
you know what I mean. But
I hope because I feel very confident Pascal Siakam and OG Anunoby won't both be back next year. You cannot have another year where you play Siakam, Anunoby, and Barnes all together if you're committed to Jakob Poeltl being your starting 5. You just can't. It's you don't have enough spacing. You don't have enough creation ability. So one's got to go. And if you're just gonna let the guys walk away, trade them. Like they have at least some modicum of trade value. Trade them either in a trade where you kind of start a new iteration and I'm not saying a full blown blow it up rebuild, but just kind of start moving in a different direction, or trade them in a balancing type trade where like what the Kings did when they got traded Halliburton for Sabonis. That was a
Yeah.
balancing type trade, right? Where
Do they regret that, you think?
I don't think so. And here's my thing. They made the playoffs, right? For the
Yeah.
first time after, a decade and a half. Sabonis was an all NBA level guy. He's very, very good. So I don't think the Kings have any regret. De'Aaron Fox has grown into being an all NBA level player. And who knows if he's splitting ball handling reps with Tyrese Halliburton. Does that happen? And I feel very confident Tyrese Halliburton doesn't become what he has become if he's still with the Kings. Because
Yeah.
again, he wouldn't have an offense where everything's tailored around him and his skill set. So I think it's I still think that's a win-win trade for both sides. I know that we live in this world where we have to declare a winner and a loser
Yep.
on everything, but I think they both got what they wanted. So, but back to the Raptors, that's maybe the direction I think they could go in. But I think to your bigger issue, I have no faith they're going to. Like, I think they
Yeah.
may just continue to play this thing out, be a middling team, maybe make the play-in tournament, and then somebody walks away and they just kind of go, and then that's, they just do more of the same next season. I feel very weird about the way they're building that team.
I think a lot of teams could talk themselves into Siakam being a great fit with them. And so he'd be an interesting potential trade chip, but his contract situation moving forward would certainly be something to keep an eye on with that. All right. So here's a super chat came in from Mario. If you had the number one pick and both Cooper Flag and Cameron Boozer were available, which one would you pick to start your franchise? I haven't watched enough of both of these guys to be able to definitively say, just based on buzz, I think Cooper Flag is the guy. But Keith, I know you've spent a little more time watching these guys. Where would you land?
Yeah, Cameron Boozer is very, very good, but I would pick Cooper Flag. I think Cooper Flag reminds me of a guy who is going to have a very good all-around offensive skill set. I think he'll be similar to like what Utah Gordon Hayward looked like. And then I'll use another Utah player from the defensive side of the ball. I think he can be a lot like Andre Kirilenko, who was for a long time one of the best defensive players in the league.
Yeah.
Because he's got great size. He's just a really good intuitive shot blocker. For a guy who's about 6'8", he'll probably finish. My guess is Cooper Flag will grow to be about 6'9" or so. And then when he fills out, he'll become an even better rebounder. But he's got good range on his jump shot. Shot's inconsistent right now. That's probably the biggest thing he needs work on, but he can attack off the dribble. He can do things as a roll man and pick and roll. So I like Cameron Boozer a lot, but I would go with Cooper Flag at the moment.
All right, I think this is an interesting question. What did you guys think of the atmosphere of the in-season tournament in Las Vegas, and should it always be played in Las Vegas, or should this be something kind of like the Super Bowl or something where it rotates, it goes to different cities? I kind of liked that the crowd was darkened in the building there.
Yeah,
I thought that
so did the TV because it should the NBA because it showed didn't show how empty the building was for the first game.
the first game, yeah. Well,
Yeah.
but they'll put the first game on at 2:00. Like
Yeah,
if you want the building to be full, that was I mean, mind-numbingly just terrible decision. But it wasn't a bad look as far as the atmosphere goes. I honestly, when I'm doing the play-by-play for the games, so I'm not hearing a lot of what the crowd noises are or anything like that. So I couldn't tell what the reaction was per se. As far as should it always be in Vegas, maybe this changes when Vegas gets a team. But for now, I think so. I mean, Vegas has become like the NBA's meeting point, right? It's we see it for Summer League, which I don't think is going to change even when Vegas does get a team. But I think if Vegas does get a team, when that happens, then maybe at least I think you keep Summer League there. The in-season tournament, I guess you could switch that around to different cities, but you get people will fly to Vegas. If the in-season tournament is having their final in Milwaukee, say, and it's the Orlando Magic against the Clippers or something, are people flying to Milwaukee to go see it as a destination? I don't know. That's the issue that I would see with moving it around to different cities.
Yeah, I think so. There was a lot of things working against that Pacers Bucks game. The timing was insane. That can't be a thing next year. Put these games, figure out a way, put them on a Wednesday. So you're not going against the Thursday night NFL game if that's the concern. Figure it out. We also didn't need, 2+ hours in between games to do whatever that concert thing. I didn't even understand it, which obviously I'm not the target audience for that. But then they also used people who are people I listen to, like Nelly and TLC. So like maybe I was the target audience, and if I didn't care for it, then whatever. But anyway, that you got to do. These games should be played at like 7 and 9:30 or 7:30 and 10. Just use your normal windows like you do. If you want to start them a little earlier, like maybe you could go with a 6:30 tip, but a 5 Eastern, which is 2 p.m. local tip, is just terrible.
Yeah.
I don't know how you make sure the building gets filled up, because by the second game, Lakers fans had obviously snatched up all the tickets because it's drivable, right? You can
Yeah.
shoot right over from LA, go to the game, and a bunch of them probably were back home in time for work today if they needed to be. Like probably
Yeah.
wasn't, that's very doable. It's obviously Las Vegas is a huge Lakers town. We see it every summer at Summer League. You and I have been there together, sitting next to each other when it's we're covering Joel Ayayi is the most interesting player on the Lakers.
That's right.
Summer League roster, and it's still the building's half full with Laker fans because that's what
It's
happens.
close.
So yeah, so it's I think the players like the idea. They've met multiple players, at least 10, 15 players talked about like, hey, a trip to Vegas in the middle of the year, not bad. Like they're into it. Once, to your point, once they get their own team, if you're making a trip there once or twice a year every year anyway, it might not be as big of a draw. So then maybe you can look at moving it around by NCAA Final Four style, where you send it to different cities and all that. I think the big thing is don't send it to cold weather places because the players aren't going to be happy. Send it to warm weather cities. You could even put it in places where there aren't teams. You could like send it to San Diego.
Yeah, that's an
where
idea.
there's not a team, and kind of let them experience it. And somebody asked, like, do you think it could get big enough where you could play it in football stadiums like people do now? It's not gonna be an outdoor stadium, it's not gonna do that. But yeah, you could get it like the NCAA Final Four and play it in a football stadium if it turns into that big of a thing. So that's certainly possible. They're going to make tweaks. They're going to make adjustments to this. They'll figure it out, but it's definitely not going anywhere. It is here to stay at least for the next several years.
Yeah, absolutely it is. Absolutely it is. Yeah, I think they could move it around. Just it's a matter of, do you get people treating it as a destination experience and going to the game there? So, and as long as that is a yes, then they are, then yeah, you can move it all over the place if you wanted to. Darren said, I hear the Spurs are taking for Isaiah Collier or Nikola Topic. What do you think about those two prospects? And does this hurt Wemby's chance for winning Rookie of the Year? So the fact that the Spurs are struggling so badly, does this hurt Wembanyama's chance of winning that Rookie of the Year?
Yeah, I think so, because right now, Chet Holmgren is playing so well right now. So that leads us to like he may be like ahead, because a lot of times what happens in Rookie of the Year, it's a lot more about stats than it is anything else, because generally rookies aren't on very good teams. Holmgren happens to be on a very good team. So you get into a spot where if there's a tiebreaker to be used, they'll use that as the tiebreaker. And Holmgren's stats are not far off of Wembanyama's either. So right now, yeah, I think it is hurting him a little. I don't know if they're tanking as much as they're just bad. I think they might just be bad. Isaiah Collier, it's Topic. So you say it kind of like Jokic.
Okay.
That one. I know it's spelled Topic, but it's one of those accents on the C.
Makes sense.
And he's from Serbia too, because I swear to God, every player that comes out of Serbia is named Nikola, and it somehow rhymes with Jokic lately.
That's right.
We also have like Nikola Jovic, right? With the Heat. So yeah, I mean, both of those guys would be good picks for them because they need a point guard. The point Sohan stuff, it's not going to be a thing. They're already showing signs of maybe moving away from it a little bit. Both of those guys look like they're going to be, starting level ball handlers. The Spurs obviously have had a great deal of success with international players. Collier, to me, is the higher level guy right now, but it's also the beginning of December. So we've got, 6+ months to go before it's draft time. So we'll see. But I like Nikola Topic too. He does play pretty well.
Well, I mean, as far as the Spurs tanking again, I don't think they are tanking. I think that, like you said, they're just a bad team, and it's a. I like that the NBA doesn't put so much of a focus on rookies winning, as you were
Mhm.
saying, like
Yeah.
the MVP. Like you're not going to get a team that's not in the playoffs
Correct.
having an MVP player. So it's not going to happen. That is so much. The team success matters so much with that. Defensive player of the year, team success matters so much with that. Rookie of the year, I don't think it should be as connected, but it has to matter a little bit. And when Chet and Wemby are already going to be seen as pretty close, and Chet's already having such a great season, that probably does give Chet an edge there. So yeah,
Which means
I
we're
do
going to
think it.
get the whole dumb argument of Chet's not a rookie again,
Yep.
which he is. It doesn't matter how you believe about that. The NBA says if you've never played in a game, you're a rookie, and he's never played in a game. So,
Yeah.
but yeah. Yep. That's a great question, though. A really good question.
Yeah, for sure. All right.
We had another
Let's
one in
see.
there. I think we had another, maybe I missed it. Okay. I
Looking
might have
through
missed it.
here. Oh, Mario asked, would Europe be an option for the in-season tournament final?
Yeah, that's interesting.
Could that be a
Yeah,
tough sell with the players?
maybe because your challenge is like you're you're like when they do that Paris game, that's basically the only game those teams play for an entire week. They go over like 3 days early to adjust. They play the game, they come back home. They have like 3, 4 more days to readjust, and then they get back into their schedule. I don't maybe you could do that with this because that is kind of what's going to happen here a little. And I would say you would probably send the whole like all the final four teams over there and do something like that. So maybe um I just think there's a lot of other places they try in the States first
Yeah.
before they go overseas. Somebody asked an expansion question. That's what I was looking for, and I can't find it now.
Oh, I did see that one. It was it was something to the effect of, oh, when they announce expansion, could they be announcing 4 teams rather than 2? It was something to that
Yeah.
effect.
So that's a really great question. And I think your challenge with the 4 versus 2 becomes I don't know that they want to add 4 teams right away. Maybe now if we go way back, probably before a lot of people watching were born,
Yeah.
when they brought in the Heat, Hornets, Magic, and Timberwolves, they brought in 2 one year and then 2 the next season. The Heat and Hornets started in 1988, and then the Magic and Timberwolves started in 1989. And that was the way they broke it up. I don't know that the NBA would even do that this time around. I think it is far more likely what we see is they bring in 2 teams soonish, right? Whatever the next wave is, whenever that may be, probably 3-ish years from now, maybe 4.
Mhm.
Then after that, maybe 3, 4 years after that, we go with 2 more teams come in like that. I don't think they're going to do 4 teams right away. I think that you run the risk then of you do dilute things a little too much
Yeah.
because you're going to that's a lot of guys to pull off of other teams.
That's a big expansion draft, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. Big expansion draft. You dilute the NBA draft, and it just becomes a little bit messy if you do that.
So, okay, let's assume the first run through, it's going to be Seattle and Vegas.
Yeah.
Who's the next 2? Let's say the NBA does say we're going to do 2, and then maybe it's 2 years later, 3 years later, whatever. We're going to do 2 more. Who's the next 2? Like, who should those cities be?
There's definitely going to be an international city in there. It'll either be Vancouver, Montreal,
Yeah.
maybe Mexico City. There's still Mexico City. We're really into kind of the second year of the Capitans down there because what's happened is one of the years was really wiped out because of COVID. So we're really into year 2 of them being like a real thing. So the league still has a lot of stuff they're figuring out with Mexico City being a viable option for more than 1 or 2 regular season games a year and more than a G League team. So could be right. Could be on the table. I think Vancouver has made it known they would like a team. Adam Silver himself said Montreal has reached out. Clearly, the Raptors are wildly popular. And for all that people think, like, well, Toronto's all of Canada, I can tell you it is
It's not.
not.
No.
Vancouver is, as far away from Toronto as, Seattle is from Detroit.
Yep.
So that's so Vancouver, there's still a lot of bad feelings about how that went down too.
Yeah.
With Vancouver, it is one of the best cities in the world too. It is beautiful in Vancouver, so I think there's a chance. My guess is it would be at least one, if not two, international teams, and then we're probably, if it's another U.S. team, you might see Louisville get a team. They've been pushing really, really hard to get a team. There's some other places people have mentioned, like here locally, people are like, well, they should put a team in Tampa. But Orlando would do everything they could to kill that because that's part of their market. People have talked about San Diego. Well, the Lakers and Clippers, they already have to share a market. They don't want to share any more of Southern California than they have to. So
the Clippers
you
can
run
just go
into
back.
stuff like that. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, right. Well, they could. Yeah. I mean, that was mentioned multiple times. Now we get the other dogs checking in. So yeah, but it's coming, right? Expansion is coming. I think we all know it's going to be Seattle and Vegas. It's Adam Silver can say there's been no, discussions and all that stuff, but it's certainly going to be a thing. How would expansion teams affect the in-season tournament groups? Who knows? By the time we get there, like it doesn't even.
The in-season tournament groups could look totally different by that time because they're going to tinker with
the conferences could look different, and the scheduling could. I think they're going to use expansion as a way to really try to, hey, let's do some restructuring to our entire season and the way this stuff all fully works. I don't think they're going conference lists. That's not going to be a thing. I don't think we're going top 16 for the playoffs or anything like that. But I do think they're going to restructure some stuff beyond just moving one team to the East, which would be at a bare minimum what would need to happen.
This is what comes up all the time. People say if Seattle and Vegas come in, which two teams go East?
Only
would be one team. Yeah. One team would go East so that it remains balanced. If you sent two teams, then no longer you'd have balance. But who does go, Keith? When I look at the map, and I look at the map of NBA teams, I know you can make an argument for Memphis. You can make an argument for New Orleans, I suppose. I think it should be the Wolves because they're close to so many Eastern Conference teams, and they're not close to any Western Conference teams. It would change their whole travel situation. So the Wolves are the team that makes sense to me, even though you can make an argument for those other teams as well.
Yeah, we could see, right, because they'd be at 32 teams. We could see them redo things like NFL style, where it is like there's 8 4-team divisions maybe, and that's how they break it all down. And then you could really get kind of funky in how you check some stuff, but it's still East-West is always going to be kind of a natural dividing line. My guess is it would be either Memphis or Minnesota for the reasons you mentioned. Memphis is the furthest east geographically, but they are close to a handful of teams. But like you said, Minnesota, I mean, they're like right there with Milwaukee and Chicago, like are right there for them. So that would be very close. And then you get into when people mention New Orleans, yes, they are, somewhat east, but I think the challenge for New Orleans is they're also closer to like Houston and Dallas and San Antonio than Minnesota is to some of their teams. I think the NBA, if it's Seattle and Las Vegas, they're going to do some full restructuring because the Northwest division as we know it today, it's the weirdest division in maybe all of sports because of the way these teams are aligned. I know the NFC East is goofy and weird, but that's because there's years of rivalries that the NFL doesn't want to break up with that one. But there's a lot of weird stuff. So we'll see.
All right, let's finish up with this. How do we feel about the Lakers-Boston matchup? Wish we could see it. Well, we're going to see it in a few weeks. It's going to be a Christmas Day matchup.
Christmas Day. Yeah, which is a little weird, right? Feels like that's the NBA using one of their big drawing cards on a day where they're big drawing cards anyway, but it'll be fun. I'm sure everyone's going to keep the Christmas spirit and stay perfectly rational and be very nice to each other across social media.
There will be no Grinches.
yeah, right. Well, the Grinch is green and he does win in the end. So maybe we get some foreshadowing going on.
His heart had to grow 3 sizes in order to change this. By the way,
it's going to be fun, right? Lakers Celtics it doesn't matter who is playing. I mean, there's been years of where both teams have stunk and it's always fun. So it'll be fun.
Yeah, that's going to be it'll be fun. It'll be an exciting one. Which do you rock with the classic Grinch cartoon? Do you do the Jim Carrey one? Do you do the new the CGI one that they've got that had Benedict Cumberbatch as the Grinch? Which one do you go to?
I've not seen the last one you mentioned. I didn't even know that was a thing.
It's good. It's good.
Is it?
Yeah.
I like the classic. The Jim Carrey one is funny. Like he did a good job as the Grinch, and I thought it was funny. But the classic one is, that one's still always good. What always shocks me with all of those, how short they all are. I swear, as kids, those things ran for like 2 hours,
Right.
and it was like all those shows were like 2 hours long, and then you put them on, and it's like, oh, it's been 40 minutes and it's over.
And it's over.
Like, yeah, it's just weird. I felt like, maybe that was because I was one of those kids until I started playing sports regularly. Like I was a Saturday morning cartoon kid. Like put cartoons on and I was there. Now he's questioning like, how do we feel about the finals? The guy who asked about Celtics Lakers. Well, yes, that's going to be the one we root for forever. Right. For as long as we'll always root for it, but for as long as they're tied in titles, that's what we want, is for the two teams to break it in a matchup against each other head to head. So that's, we always want to see that one. So, but we'll see.
Yeah, that would be, and the NBA would love to see that as well. Ryan said it's just nice to have your team playing on Christmas.
Who's your team, Ryan? Shout it back before we wrap up.
Not from my perspective.
Yeah,
it's not like
it turns a work day into a full work day.
Exactly. It's like a status thing. Like the top teams get to play on Christmas and all of that. And so that's cool and everything. But I would like Christmas Day to just be able to relax and not have to work that day. But
yeah, it would be nice. But alas, nice. Here we are. And the Heat are playing this year, I believe. I'm almost positive, right? They play in they're playing the 8:00 game against the 76ers, hosting it.
Maybe he's saying, there's no sarcasm there. He's just saying it is nice to have your team play on Christmas.
Yeah. The players do appreciate it. Then I think you get to a point where LeBron's talked about this, where it's like, now it's just assumed he's going to be playing on Christmas. But he did talk about, Stephen Curry talked about it, where there's a point where it's like, I've done it 10, 12 times. Yeah. Like, I don't really, it would be nice to wake up and spend the day at home with the family. So I kind of get it. But yeah, I think, there's there. Just the last one we'll do. Dan the Man says, is there success of the IST providing cash incentives? Do they do the same for the All-Star game? They already do. And guys don't care enough. The difference is the All-Star game is very much seen as a full-scale exhibition that means nothing. So that's why you get the half effort you get in that. Now, somebody asked me this next game, other than the winning the title of in-season tournament champion and the money, doesn't mean anything, right? This game doesn't count for regular season up until now. They all have. So somebody asked me, like, could we see guys go half speed? I don't think so. I think guys are motivated enough that they want to win this thing. So I think tomorrow night, Saturday night, we're going to get a pretty good show. But yeah, we'll be watching a little bit. And it's hard to say if one team races away from the other. Yeah, then you could see teams are like, all right, shut it down. There's no reason to push super hard. But yeah, so far, guys are really pushing. So it's been a success, by almost any measure. Maybe the courts. That's the one
that needs to be tweaked. But
but even the final court too. That's a little And you know what? I'll say this, and I'm not preaching to the Laker fans here at all. The Lakers should have been allowed to wear their black jerseys.
It doesn't make sense.
It was. I like, until I saw the court, I was like, all right, if it's not going to look good and it's going to make it real messy.
I assumed the court was black.
Yeah.
Like I assumed that's what it had to be, was okay. It makes sense. The court must be black, and then they can't wear a black jersey. Yeah. And then I saw the court and I went, why would you not be able to wear a black jersey on that court?
Do you know where the courts actually came from? Like I found this out. They are apparently you know how the NCAA tournament uses the same court? They always paint the baseline and sidelines blue. They're apparently repurposed NCAA tournament courts. Is where they got them from. And that's what the paint jobs did, and then they'll repaint them, obviously, once this is complete, back to the NCAA tournament colors. So I thought that was interesting. That's where a lot of them came from, apparently. So,
that is interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. It's funny with all these court things. I know I actually talked to somebody about this here in Orlando. One of the concerns all the teams have is you keep giving us all these courts, right? Because they all have these alternate courts now.
Yeah.
Too. Not all, but a lot of them do. Them? Yeah, there's only so much place to store these things. And like in a place like crypto, you've got Lakers and Clippers and the Kings there. So there's only so much place to put all this stuff in these arenas. Like the bowels of these arenas are only so big. You can only, put so many courts and hockey boards and all the other stuff you need to put in there. So it's just something to think about. So we'll see. Winner of IST should get an extra win. No, I disagree with that. Don't make it discount the regular season at all. Like it's fine if it's a separate thing. We'll see if the Pacers and Lakers come out and play this like an all-star game because it doesn't count for any real thing in the standings. Then I reserve the right to change my mind. I don't think
I'd be
they're going to. So yeah, I think they'll go that way. There was one other thing that I thought I saw here that I wanted to touch on, but I don't remember what it was. So we'll call it good.
All right. Well, everybody, thank you for joining us. Another fun Front Office Friday. Oh, I'm supposed to do the yell.
Yeah, you
That's
are.
right.
Yeah, close it out that way, my friend.
To close things out, thank you, everybody, for joining us on Front Office Friday. Yeah. You gotta add a little bit of gravel to the voice with that one.
You sounded like you were going to be like, at the max, Bigfoot.
It's Sunday.
I love it.
Friday. Monster trucks and the NBA. Yeah, there we go.
That's what they should do. They should play an NBA game with monster trucks driving around the court. There it is. That's how we make it good. The chat, I think, is like, all right, this show went off the rails.
Yeah, they're like, and we're out of here.
Jared says worth it. He gave you the strong there. We need somebody's going to drop the emoji with the snorting emoji. There it is, and that stuff. Trevor with his Christian Bale Batman voice. That is good. That is what it kind of counted as.
That's right. What does he say? He does the I'm Batman, but it's the fear me, I think he says.
Yeah, something like that.
Something like that. Fear Front Office Friday.
I like when you did it too. You lowered your head so that
I had to
covering your eyes. You look a little scary there. Yeah, there we go.
All right. Well, thank you everybody for joining us. Now my voice is shot. Till next time. See ya and stay safe.